Thank you so much, Laryssa, for joining us. And today we're going to have a Q&A with Laryssa, who is a decorated Olympian with 2 bronze medals, and then went on to be an international coach for both Canada and Australia. Laryssa has done some work with the women coaches in Ireland previously, so some of you may know her, but others may not. So I might start, Laryssa, by asking you, could you give us, if you can, a bit of a synopsis of your career so far, and maybe post your athletic time with Canada?
Sure. So I studied landscape architecture and interior design at school. So did that for a couple of years post Sydney. And then a good friend of mine, we were out paddling in the Double, and she said, "What's up? You don't seem like you're really happy." And I said, "I'm really missing rowing." And she kind of gave me the push, the confidence, I guess, to say, okay, I'm going to do this. And then coached all levels, para, club, masters, learned to row, did everything. We've got a school in Canada, National Coaching School. So I did my diploma in coaching in that. And then 2003, I think it was kind of my first A-team stuff. We did the Pan Am Games and stuff like that. Always with the lightweight women. Interesting, Claire. They thought because I was a small heavyweight, I would be motivational to the lightweights. I was like, they're not my people. I'm a heavyweight. But so from 2003, Pan Am Games, 2004, I coached at the Olympics right away. So it was a really fast trajectory. Yeah. And you'll find this interesting too, Claire, that I had Fiona Millen and Mara Jones, 2 women in the double that were 5th the year before. And we went and they won Lucerne the Olympic year, right? So it was kind of this fast, you're just in and that. Amazing. And coached lightweight women from 2004 till 2012. 2 Olympic cycles for Canada and 1 for Australia. And did it while we had 2 children along the way, and my husband also was a rower along the way. Amazing. And then in 2013 we moved back to Canada. My husband was thinking Australia was too far away, his family was getting older and things like that, so he felt this allegiance, he wanted to come back to Canada and give back. So he was working with an entity called On the Podium for Canada, so helping sports and things like that. Currently, he's the high performance director for Rowing Canada, which means a conflict of interest for me. So I am not able to coach high performance for Canada. I can volunteer. So I've coached junior worlds and things like that since we've been back. But most of my time is spent coaching at school. So Brentwood College School, it's boys, girls, and we have about 120 kids that row during the year. 10 coaches and a boatman. So it's a full on, it's still coaching, with the part I love is the coaching, but I also have people management, which, that's fun. Yeah. And most of my people are men. So that's even more fun with that. So.
Wow. No, very, very impressive, definitely. And I guess, so it really was your love for the sport that brought you into coaching. So like, was there times along the way where you thought about landscape architecture or coming off that, the path of rowing?
It's interesting, right? When you've been an athlete and then you stop being an athlete, there's a lifestyle that you like, right? The activity, the trying to be at your best, the goal setting, the achieving, the process to get there, all that you really love. And for me, I remember the point I was working in interior design and I was having to sell a woman drapery, curtains. And the woman I was working with, before she sent me out, she goes, "Okay, we've got them. They're going to spend thousands on these drapes. Just keep up selling them, keep up selling them, keep up selling them." And I remember going into this woman's house. It was dark. It wasn't very clean. And I just was like, go outside and get exercise. Go outside and move, because that's going to make you more happy than having these beautiful, luscious drapes to look at. So I think for me, it's more the fitness, the lifestyle of being active is what I love. And the coaching aspect, I was told I was never going to make it. You're too small. You're not good enough. Your erg score is not good enough. Da, 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 da. And people telling me you can't do something. I just thought, you know what? I want to coach because I want to help everyone do what they want to do. It's your choice. You're the one that decides if you're going to do it, not some coach telling you you're not good enough. You're never going to do this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And at every level, I think like having a passion, or be it your career or as a coach volunteering, being active is just so key to your happiness. So yeah, spot on.
Yeah.
So then you moved into the space of high performance coach pretty quickly, but you were straight away probably in the minority as a female coach. So did that stand out to you, or did you kind of take it in your stride? And what made you comfortable in that environment?
When I first started coaching for Canada, there was Mike Spracklin, which some people may know, just a really amazing coach, but an older man who is very much women's place is at home, in the workplace, in the kitchen. So he was one of my mentor coaches, and he said to me straight up, well, it doesn't matter if you're ever a good coach, because you're married to Ian and he's going to make the money anyway. So it doesn't matter how good you want to be. Another coach I worked with my first Olympics was Brian Richardson, an Aussie, who, lovely guy, a great coach, same thing. And he was actually more well-rounded and open to having a female. And then the other coach on the staff was my old coach, Al Morrow. So right away it was me and these three guys. And I remember we were up one night in Italy, because our training camps were in Italy, and we were saying goodbye to Kiki, who had run our training camp for us. He had the space for us to do this. And Kiki went by, and he was a male, the Italian male. He went by and he shook Mike Spracklin's hand. Thank you, Mike, for training here. It's great. Shook Brian's hand. Thank you. That was great. Shook Al's hand. Thank you. That was great. Grabbed me, kissed me, grabbed my butt. And I was just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Brian Richardson stepped in. Mike and Al thought it was funny. But yeah, it's just, you're a female. And then I go to Australia to coach. And I moved there when Riley was 3 months old. So baby nursing. So enough so that I would pump milk in the back room and put it in the fridge. And lovely staff there. Red Aliff, Noel Donaldson, Lau McCarthy, like just awesome guys. And I'll never forget Noel Donaldson yelling, "Hey Larry, is this cream fresh for the coffee?" Like just constant stuff. "No, you touch that, I'll kick you, buddy, leave that alone." But then we go to the Olympics, fast forward to 2012, and we're sitting in Lucerne having our we were doing some coach development stuff, work still. And my high performance director went around the table and he counted, and he was like, "Larry, you're the only girl. There's 14 guys and you. Does that bother you?" And I was thinking, it's been that way for 4 years, Andrew. You're noticing it the last 4 weeks, and you're taking the time to ask me now, does it bother you? It's lonely, right? It's the boys go out for drinks to the bar. Do I want to go have drinks with 12 guys in the bar? Not so much. And if I don't go have drinks with the guys, well, why don't you try to fit in? Why don't you want to be one of the guys? So yeah, you do notice it, and it's lonely, right? Internationally, 2004, my first Olympics, there was myself, Susanna from the Netherlands, Chris Wilson from the States, a woman from France, Germany, and me. Sorry, I already counted me. 5. 5. And then fast forward to Beijing. Beijing, I had worked with the lightweight men and women's doubles, qualified both of them up for those Olympics, and was pregnant at the time, and was told by Rowing Canada, "You can't go to Beijing because we're worried about you being pregnant. and your husband's in the lightweight 4, so we think you might be a distraction. So yeah, like you get put in your face quite a bit that you're different.
But you did make it work through 3 Olympic cycles. So how did you adapt to accommodate it, I suppose, or to make yourself stick
in Australia they called me Larry, so they just oh, she's Larry, she's not really she's just Larry over there. But I just loved it. And some I'm saying the bad comments, but I'll never forget my interview in Australia with Lyle McCarthy, Crocodile Dundee, right? Like, he's a rough and tough Aussie. And we sat down at a coffee shop in Yarralumla, and Lyle said to me, he goes, how are you going to manage this? How are you going to not screw up your family life like I screwed up mine? And I was like, what? You didn't screw up. Like, you've got Liz, you've got the children, you're fine. He goes, I was away a ton when the kids were small. How are you going to do this? How can we help you do this and not look back on it and have regrets? So awesome stuff like that, right? And then the Aussies had this family plan where we'd move to Europe for 3 months, and Avery and Riley came with me. My husband had a job in the Australian Sports Commission, so they moved him over, and he stayed there with us 1 year. So, and I think, Claire, there's ways to do it. The first time I was traveling with the Canadian team, I knew Mike Spracklin was going to get mad. You know, when you're flying and there's that one baby that's crying, picture that with the men's 8, Mike Spracklin. I was just having, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Oh, do you know what I'm going to do? Plan ahead. I'm going to fly 2 days early. I'm going to put myself on another floor of the hotel. I'm going to make sure that I'm doing it. So it's all the pre-planning and organization to make sure I was never in the spot to be proven that I couldn't do it.
Yeah. And then actually, I'm not sure if one thing as well, Laryssa, if you want to go to the next slide, maybe just indicate to Michelle.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Anyway. Stuck in this conversation anyway.
I guess we could go to the next one, probably.
Yeah. Hold on. No, and that's actually perfect. So I was just going to ask, like, one thing I think that's really evident of the role of the coach is that it's all time consuming, and you have kind of touched on that, but like, you obviously did manage to balance it, and how did you manage that?
So the picture on the left with me with the oars, that was Avery, my firstborn, 7 months old. This was Linz. So I tried to redo the picture again, Michelle. I tried to, this year at the World, somebody take a picture of me 13 years later, walking in the same spot. But so this one, it was the lightweights we're going over. So the lightweight men's 4 and the double. The double that I had, and then the boys. And the coach that we were working with, Bengt Jensen, at this time, couldn't get a visa to travel because he was Danish and couldn't get a visa to come back over. So I had all the lightweights. So my first regatta back, all the lightweights, and brought my sister over. She had 3 children. And I thought, you know what? I need someone to help through this. So Carla came and was just brilliant with it. The middle picture was Poland. This is my first regatta with Australia, 2009. My husband took 9 months off, and stayed home with the kids. So you can see Riley's still pretty young. I think she's November. So he came over and had the 2 kids. So it was one of those, again, the time management skills. Claire and I practiced simulating to get on the call. I would do all that, like my timeline's written out, Claire, same as you would race day, anything else. Okay, I nursed the baby at 2:00. The girls have pushed off at 1:45. Like, I had it all down like that.
Yeah.
So it's actually harder now that they're older.
Really?
Is the
because they don't travel in tow, I suppose, or
and they've got school and they've got their things. So it's interesting looking back. People say, "Oh, how'd you do it? How'd you do it?" from the time they're just born till they're 5, that's almost your easy time, right? Because you can take the family unit wherever you go. It's once they get stuck into school and their lives, that's when it gets harder to balance things.
Absolutely. And I know, like, I had a really great experience, and I think a great role model with Sinead Lynch, my rowing partner, in that she had her 3 kids at the time while rowing with me, and like, she had to go away on training camps and everything else. And you know, I heard people say, like, you know, how is she able to leave her kids? And why, like, some people would actually, you know, diss it and say, well, you know, is she being a good mom? And I just feel, well, the experiences that the kids are getting, the person they're looking up to, I think it's like invaluable by being the mom that goes out and gets it if they can. So I think
I would say
that,
too,
like,
yeah, I think I was probably my best mom at this time because I loved my kids and I loved my coaching. It's probably more a struggle for me now. And I love the high school coaching. The high school is great, but the high performance thing is, I never rode in high school. I started late at university and things like that. So my comfort zone is really the international. I understand that better than I understand the rules for high school rowing. So it's quite opposite.
Yeah, no, totally. And so actually, and then with your, I think your next slide, you talk about your challenges, that you faced. So Michelle, if you can pop to the next slide there. Oh, actually, wow. Is this coaching with the school?
So this is one of the girls, and I put down different is okay. So along the way, I got told that you're spending too much time on the soft skills. You're doing the touchy-feely stuff, this stuff that we don't need to talk about. You know what? Well, it affects girls, right? Like, if they start crying and things like that, you need to know what happened. Did the boyfriend break up with them? Are they on their cycle? Like, are they not sleeping? What's going on? And I think the feedback I've heard along the way is that me coaching from my female side has made some of the male coaches better too. That they didn't want to work on the soft skills. They didn't want to work on the mental prep. They didn't want to work on making sure their athletes had balanced lives. And I know that me doing that helped them. Case in point with Lyle in Australia, he would just have the girls there, I was told, from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. They wouldn't really know what their schedules were and things like that. Well, I had a 3-month-old baby when I started. So I was like, no, we're having a schedule. We're doing this. We're going to take a break. We're going to do this. I want all the girls to go to school, or they're going to work. They're going to be balanced. They're going to have their backgrounds in place. And all of a sudden the Aussie women took off because they were in control a bit. And I think women, there's different skill sets that they have that they like to use as athletes and as a coach. And I don't think we should be afraid to do that.
No, and with the school that you're currently coaching in now, obviously there's similar situation to what's happening here in Ireland around COVID-19. How are you managing that within Brentwood?
So I've got a picture later on in the slide too. We're doing virtual body weights 3 times a week. So we go out, my elbows, I've got probably tendonitis from doing so many push-ups and burpees and things like that. But we're trying to look at this period as an opportunity. So instead of being, our whole rowing season's done, we've kind of gone through and done screenings on the kids. Okay, how's your flexibility? How's your strength? How are you mentally? All this stuff, and kind of targeted a weakness to work on each of them. Wow. So we've got one boy, Carl, who he couldn't squat, when you keep your heels down, like his heels always came up. He had no ankle flexibility and things like that. So we screened him and said, okay, 20 minutes a day. Now that you've got extra time, you're going to roll through your feet. You're going to stretch out your calves. You're going to roll your whole lower leg. Talked to him last night. His mobility's increased tenfold. Yeah. So trying to give them goals for now that we're going to get through this and you can be better
And
coming out of this.
are you using physio input for that, or is that just stuff you've learned through your time? Is
Just
there
stuff
any
I've learned.
resource maybe that, yeah?
There's actually rowing strength, I believe it's called. And I'm little, right? So I wanted to figure out how I could row. So when I went to Oz, we tested the mechanical foot plates and stuff on my feet and things like that, and the Biomex and all that stuff. So I've always coached off the feet, right? How you put your ball of your foot to your heel, how you hold on through the foot plate, get your arc longer. And it turns out that ankle is, the ankle bone, I believe, is 25% of your body in terms of bones, tendons, ligaments, and all that stuff. And the fascia that runs from your feet all the way to your forehead does affect how you row. So rowing strength, and there's a book about the ankle flexibility, and he puts in screenings and things like that. So I've just been doing Zoom calls with the kids and saying, okay, today we're going to screen your ankles. And some of them I think are doing it incorrectly. There's one girl last night who said, oh, I have no problems. I'm sure she's tight as. So then I've just said, okay, just follow along with the stretching routine and we'll measure you again in 2 weeks. But there are some good resources out there from physios and things like that too.
Yeah, for sure. But no, it's definitely a good time to like highlight a weakness and use that for the kids to have a goal during this time for when they come back, then that they'll be okay or be a bit better. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And then I did that little race series. So I took 3-week chunks, and every 3 weeks we're doing a different piece. So they did a 20-minute, this weekend they do a 10, and 3 more weeks they do a 5-minute piece. So just taking their training through that too.
No, it's spot on. And what are you finding most rewarding, like with your coaching at the school now?
Michelle, if you go forward, because I think you sorry, there was a further one. I think if we do it right now, when I was in Australia, Tor Nielsen is an awesome man who was very influential with me when I first started, because he knew me as an athlete, knew me as a coach and things like that. And he said to me at one point, Laryssa, if people would have the guts and to put their egos aside and work with the young kids, those are the ones that need to be taught correctly. The high performance ones, they're going to do it because they've got the mindset, they row pretty well, all that stuff's pretty much in place. You don't really need a coach at that point. You almost need a manager for that. He said the real impact you're going to make is on the kids. If you can get those kids properly taught, rowing well, they're going to be able to do what they want. It's when we row them too much, we get them imbalanced, we don't work on their whole person, that we get the kids burnt out and they hate it. Yeah. So,
no,
yeah.
Spot on. And I think that actually like brings in one of the questions that came in during the week, and it was about, do you think as a sport that we put too much emphasis on winning and going faster and not enough on an emphasis on winning or going faster for new or young rowers? And does more need to be done to increase participation and enjoyment of the sport at all levels?
Yes. And I think that kind of ties in with another question with about keeping girls in sports too, because I think right now we try to make them race by yesterday instead of saying, okay, let's look at you where you are right now and give you the tools in your toolbox so that you can row for your life, type of thing. It's not about winning the race in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it is. We're a sport that you can do forever. But if you do it too much, too soon, different things you do, you're going to hurt yourself. I right now can't row because I've got a bad back, right? Because I look back on my career and I probably didn't do as much prehab and stretching and things that I probably should have done. So if we can work it into the kids that you can row a single, because I think that's really important, because that's, as you're a master and whatever else, you can go on. We need to teach them strength and conditioning, and we need to have flexibility and the mental skill set. So right now with the kids, I want everyone we row in singles. I'm trying to have them, this is the hardest one, but to meditate or sit still for a little bit of time every day, because rowing is a sport that it's actually quite meditative in the movements and things like that. And then I've said the difference with me taking over at the school is I said, I want them to be athletes first, rowers second. So I don't want them to just row with us 6 days a week. Oland, we've got this tall, awesome kid. He should be on the basketball team. He's 6'5", right? It's going to be fun. So 3 days a week, he goes and plays basketball. We have him 3 days a week. That's enough. We don't need to have him rowing 6 days a week. And this is, again, this mindset and some of this older generation, not just males, but just we've done it this way. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
No, let's try something different, because I think, and I don't know how you felt as an athlete too, but when I was excited to go to the boathouse, that's when I was going to be at my best. Yeah. When I was drudging it and going, oh my God, I got to go out and do 20K. I didn't row well. I just ticked a box. And there's periods you want them to do that, but more often than not, you want them fully engaged and excited.
Yeah. But like you say, it is around changing what was done previously, or changing the mind of maybe the club culture. If the club culture is that we want to go out and win championships, how do you say, well, let's dial this back and make sure all our younger athletes are really enjoying the sport. They're doing it to the level that they can, and what allows them to do other things like outside school. Like, how can you influence that within a club culture?
I think you're going to have to get runs on the board too, right? So I know when we did that with the athletes in Australia, I had them do none of their supplemental volume. So no steady state on the water. Anything that was steady state, we did on the bike. So just shut your heads off. Don't think about it. Just go on the bike and get those endless hours of minutes. And then when we rowed or erged, it was good, hard race pace stuff. So it was, okay, this is what you need to get into. And the erg scores just dropped massive, right? Like, and Kimmy, I think, went from, I don't know, with 42 or 48 to like a 28, like shockingly impressive erg scores. And I remember this older man coming up to me. He's like, I don't know what you've done, but it's amazing. Like, how did that happen? And I go, they're excited to row. Like, when they row, it means something. So once then, when the ergs and stuff started moving around and they started getting faster on the water, that got it. So for the first bit, I think it's confidence, because you need the confidence to try something different. If that's what you believe in, you're going to sell that and execute that better than if you're just doing something that you've been told you have to do. So confidence first, to be able to take the risk to try it. But you need someone in your court. Like, you need a Lyle McCarthy who was like, okay, I'm not going to watch. She could really wreck this, but it could actually be okay. Yeah. And when it was okay, he was, yeah, that was okay. That was good. But so you need someone that will go to bat for you, but that champion in the corner. And in all the women in coaching research and seminars I've been on, a lot of times that person needs to be a male. So someone you can confide in, someone that can help you and stand behind you so that you can have that confidence and back you up.
Yeah. So I guess if there's a coach here that's tuning in and they see something that they want to make a change within the club, it's about getting a person on side, but then getting the right person. And maybe, like, let's say we're moving towards a point where we have really strong committee members within the club that are female. I think it probably is equally important that you get the person that has a bit of kudos in the club, that maybe has a position in the club, and work with someone at a time, I suppose. Yeah.
And even you could try, and I know I did this with Carl with because everything as a coach is a selling feature in a sense, right? Like, you're trying to get people on board to believe in what you believe in, to instill change. So with this whole ankle thing and stretching with the kids, I took one of our top rowers because I knew I knew it was wrong, that he had no ankle flexibility, and I knew it would change. So last night when I presented to the rest of the shed, he's like, hey, it's awesome. I did it and it's great. So if you can try it out too with an athlete or two, like I know when I was in Oz, Kim Crow came back in and worked with me. So it was great to have someone like Kim in your corner too, right? That was
absolutely, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, that's cool. One of the other questions that came in was, so in your experience, what would you recommend as the best ways to prevent or protect against coach burnout, both during an intense season or over a few years? And I think this, if you kind of take this with the viewpoint that most of these coaches would be volunteers, so they're doing it on top of their day job, they're coming down at the end of a working day, and then they're expected to maybe coach 5-6 times a week. So yeah, it's a tough one because a lot is expected of coaches, and they get sucked in and they become responsible for crews. So I don't know if you'd have any insights to that.
I think it's going to happen, and I know I hate to say that, but I think it is. When you're coaching, you've got to be up, right? You've got to have energy. You've got to be excited. You got to be passionate. And I think there's that honesty that we're not superhumans. And I've had to figure out ways to accept that. And this was my story. So this year we didn't have enough staff for the rowers at Brentwood. We had big 100 and some kids sign up. I was taking 2 boats to Boston. And then I met a girl at Worlds this year who was like, oh, I want you to coach me through to Tokyo. Oh yeah, come on. Plus you've got the 2 kids, plus you've got everyone. And I think whether you're volunteered or you're paid, females especially, I think we just say yes. Okay, I'll help. So that was a big thing for me. I remember riding my bike and going, you just have to start saying no. You just have to not feel guilty and just actually prioritize what you need to do. Like we often bite off more than we can chew. Okay, I want to coach, but do you need to be there 6 days a week? Could you buddy up with someone else and do 3 days a week and do team coaching and things like that? And it's been one of the hardest things for me to do, is to start to say no. The other thing I think is just that on the team coaching, delegate and things like that. Could you share abilities? Is there stuff you don't like to do that someone else could take and do? And then for me, I have to take care of myself, right? You need to find that time too. And I think it's just, we have to prioritize ourselves and not feel guilty about it. I remember listening into a Buddhist monk once, and he's like, we don't have guilt. Well, why do you have guilt? There's no guilt. You're making yourself feel guilty. Just, if you don't want to do something, don't do it and then feel guilty about it. Just don't do it. So yeah. And especially the volunteers are hard, right? If no one else is going to take them. But I think we need to move away from this insular, it's my crew, they're my athletes. I've pushed our school too to be a team of coaches that put your ego aside. The kids are what's going to win the championships or not win, and work together as a group, not just in these insular silos that.
And do you think there's any sessions in particular that, you should give the kids maybe to take a bit more responsibility for themselves, where they don't need to be supervised or have someone shouting at them?
Huge. Yes. And that's where that supplemental volume, the cross training, can come in, right? If you break it down, cycling, running, all those extra, if you just need them to do mileage, a kid can do 30 minutes on the erg, 30-minute bike, 30-minute run. You don't need to stand there and be at the shed. And I think I give my husband this all the time with Rowing Canada. I really see the difference from when I was an athlete to now about how we baby the athletes. It's our coach had 4 kids, and he would tell us, I can only be here these days. So those other days, we would go out and do our cross training on our own, or we would go out and do our weights without him being there. Coaches now, this selfless, I have to do everything with them. No, and I think it's the kids are not taking ownership then when they're racing too.
It's really interesting because I came across a bit of research that's going on around COVID-19 and how athletes are now coping with the current situation they're in. And the ones that are like, some are able to kind of just get on with it, finish their sessions, doing their erg, while others really feel they're motivated just by people being around there or their coach shouting at them. So also by giving them the independence to do some of the training on their own, to push themselves without the coach there, like then they're better adapted for when challenges arise, be it on race day or be it COVID-19 just calls upon us. So I totally agree that I think more independence needs to be given to athletes. Like in other sports, they don't train with a coach there for every single session, and it's difficult. And obviously supervision is needed. I'm not saying kids should be out in the water on their own,
sure.
but you know, I think it should be something we need to look at. Yeah.
Well, and I think that was one of my stories I was going to tell you, that when I went to Australia, I had a coach that told me that I needed to let him into my inner sanctum of me and the girls in the double, because I can help this person more than you can. I can get more out of them. And I said, whoa, I want her to get it out of her. Right? At the 1250, we don't fly you in a helicopter and you're going to be able to get more out of her. She's got to figure out on her own to do that. And we've moved away from that now. That our coach always said to us, you guys have to motivate me. And that's resonated with me now as a coach. I say openly to the kids, when they come down and they're yawning and they're complaining, I'm like, guys, you're not motivating me, so I don't want to coach today. So go do your own thing. And I think we worry too much that we have to be with them. And no, they need to own it. And I think this idea of the hard thing with team coaching is the ego, right? Because when the kids go to race and they come in, it's like, whoa, I won. And it's like, no, the coaches never win. The rowers win, or the athletes win. But too many coaches tie themselves along with that athlete, that journey. And if we just had a team of coaches, I just think it'd be so much better for everybody.
Yeah. Thanks. And I'm just going to bring up there. One question came in there on the Q&A button. So you talked about the challenges of winning over male coaches. Did you ever have to win over an athlete or a team of athletes when you first started working with them? If so, how did you go about it? Great question.
Yeah. So worst, I would say, are females to females, full stop. And whether that's a female coach to a female coach, or female athlete to female coach. And it's ironic because I was always put with females and always put with lightweights, which there's a lot of difficulty in managing the weight, the boats, all of this stuff. And when I first started, it was pretty good. And then when I went to Australia, I met this woman who coached Ian Thorpe. He was a big swimmer back in 2000 and won tons of stuff. And Tracy said to me, she goes, whoa, you don't coach women, do you? I was like, what? Of course I coach women. Like, what do you mean? She goes, no, you got to coach men. You're like, whoa, we got it all wrong. And it's interesting because when I was in Oz, coach women the whole way there, which was great. And then afterwards started coaching some of the guys. And the guys were like, wow, how come you could never coach us? And I think there's this, it just is not a sexist, but it's just women can only coach women, but men can coach everybody. And it's like, why is that? And so right now I coach more the high school boys because it just seems to be easier. And I've done a bit of a project at the school that males coach the females and women coach the males. And it's worked out amazing. Like junior boys who are just crazy, right? 13, 14, 15-year-olds all over the place. I've got a woman in there that keeps them all lined up. And it's awesome. Where the guys would be in there trying to hang out with them and, oh yeah, this is fun. So to win them over, my technique was always good. I was very good with coaching technique. And I think once the girls saw that I was going to be able to help them. That won them over. Girls did test a lot, though, like try to pull the crying out. I remember once sitting in the coach boat and someone just started crying. And the male coach was like, oh, she's got to go in. She's probably got her cycle. Oh my God. I'm like, no, hold on a sec. Okay, we see that you're crying. What's the matter? You still have 14K left. Let's go. So I think there's two ways on that. But yeah, it took results, but I still get it. I have a 17-year-old boy. Oh, Miss B, I got to do this because I'm trying to do this. I'm like, and I get mad. I get frustrated. I can feel my stomach tighten up and I'm like, oh, Thomas, I'm going to wring your neck. But I just have to learn to, okay, I'm going to be challenged my whole life. I've come to realize that now, that it's never going to be seen as normal that a female I'll be taken seriously, but they're always going to feel that they can come back and question me, where I just don't think they would the males as much.
Yeah. And then do you think you need to have the confidence, just like stand by your philosophy or your way, or do you feel like you need the flexibility maybe to come around? Like, if an athlete's not buying into your philosophy, do you change that then, or do you have the confidence and do you need to kind of just stick with your guns and your coaching style?
I stick with my guns, and that's probably a detriment that I stick to my guns too much, because I've built up this bit of a thick skin where I'm just, so part of me right now through this is learning to let go a little bit and do take the other side sometimes. But Thomas, as an example, he wants to improve his erg score by 11 seconds, I think, in 6 weeks or something like that. But yet he doesn't follow the program I'm writing. He doesn't want to do this. He'll send me a text every 2 weeks. So I'm just starting to let some of them go too, which is the other thing. Like, I think I know the technique I want to row. I know the program I want to write, and I back myself. So I'm just starting to, the ones that don't want to follow, it's okay. You can do something else.
Yeah. Cool. And with the school kids you have at the moment, to what kind of number of sessions a week would they be doing with you? Maybe prior to lockdown, I suppose.
So we had strength and conditioning 3 mornings a week. And then the school is weird. We've got arts rowing, which they can take rowing as an art at the school. So we get some of the kids that don't want to take pottery or drama or dance. They take rowing. So we've got 3 days a week that. We've got a big group, probably 100 at the shed. And then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday is more our technical, smaller boat sessions. So I can see them 6 days a week, which is a lot. Yeah.
And would you have like a full range of basically ability or levels? Like, do you have those that are maybe trying for junior worlds down to those that are doing it for art and just at a fun level?
And that's the hardest thing. So I ask a questionnaire when we start the year off. What's your goal in rowing? So I've learned that I need to goal set with all of them to kind of be able to put them into groups. And one of the questions is, I'm rowing because my mom and dad want me to. You would not believe the number of kids that sign up for rowing because their parents are an alum of the school. They went 30 years ago, and little Timmy's going to row whether little Timmy wants to or not. So they stick a year in it, and some of them are just miserable. So we kind of, this year, I'm going to put in tiers, I think, is what I'm trying to do, that because I want the shed to be inclusive. I want everyone to be able to row. And if they only row once, but they're happy, they can go play soccer the other 2 times a week. But at least they're being active, right? Rather than sitting in pottery or in musical, I figure we'll keep them in. So it's just figuring out that balance of how to keep them all excited and happy. And we do crazy stuff. We do relay races. We did a pumpkin relay race last year, and just different things like that to try to make it inclusive and fun. So.
And you haven't come up across any backlash with that, where it should be just sort of kind of almost gearing it towards high performance or medals?
One coach did, One coach did, because he was so just about the results on it. And he was making the kids row 6 days a week, where I don't want them to be rowers. I want them to be athletes. And well-rounded athlete is what's important to me. So it is not a rowing school, but it's a school where a lot do get not a lot, but 1 or 2 a year generally get a scholarship to the States. So there's those. So we can have a range from a kid that's pulling a 6:24 to 9 minutes. Right.
And how did you get that coach? Like, how did you get that coach on side, or how did you get to implement like a bit more of a varied tiered level?
He left.
Okay.
So there was and I think that's the thing too. As a female, I stand my ground, but then I feel bad about it. And my philosophy is, again, I want every kid that comes into Brentwood to be able to row a single. And then I want them to be able to row port and starboard and have coxed at least once before they leave. So they've got the full gamut of stuff. And a couple of the other coaches, no, we just want to get them in the 8. We want to get results. We want to go there. Well, the kids were getting herniated discs, stress fractures, all this stuff. And I was like, they're 15, 16-year-old kids. I want them to row the rest of their lives. So we had this out with this coach, and he's now come back full circle. He now wants to come back in and do it because he sees that it works too. We didn't touch a crew boat all last year, and the kids won the national championships. So they can do this, right? And I think that I want to pick boats based on the kids' skill, not have a boat and fill it with kids. And I think that's a different philosophy, where he was kind of the philosophy he wanted to have an 8 no matter what, where I wanted them to prove to me that you should be in an 8. Prove to me by your single speed, your double speed, how you move a boat, and then go. So
there was actually another question that just reminds me. It was a conversation that came up in one of the network meetings that we had, and it's that like, how do you know when to push an athlete harder, or when to back off and let them make the choice and maybe finish a session early, or be a little bit softer? That's a big question.
It's a huge one now, and it's huge because of all the stuff I feel with mental health. So the difference from when I was an athlete and the things my coach said to me to the things now, it's just I let the athletes dictate it. I go into their heads a little bit. I'll question them. Mila, are you feeling like this, or are you feeling like this? And try to kind of lead them around with, but at the end of the day, it's got to be their choice. And that's I've found the biggest thing right now is they have to do it, because it's just, the world's a changed place right now. And if how my coach got the best out of me right now would not be seen. We actually have a coach at UVic right now that's coaching. Well, he's up. Like, the things he said to women has just been terrible, and so they're doing a full, So it's changed.
And it makes me think of another question then, in that, like, some of the clubs, I guess, would have athletes that are training to race internationally at a junior level, and like, what signs should you maybe look out for that the athlete might need to back off, or might be doing too much, or yeah, I guess
So
basically what should you
when
look out for?
yeah, when I did Junior Worlds a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, I think it was, I asked them specifically what they did with their Junior Worlds, because when I was coaching senior A level, I always had screenings done. So when we would come back after Worlds, that first week there'd be a screening, bloods, mobility, all that stuff. Then back after Christmas, same thing, do another screening on them, see how they are, mobility tests, all that type of stuff. And then again, right before the international season. Because the juniors aren't centralized, I don't think we do that very well. So we had a kid last year, our top kid in the country, found out he had mono, right? And he pulled out of going to Junior Worlds last year because he wanted to take the year off before he was going to UW on scholarship. But we should have done a better job on screening that.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we just, again, we get so busy training, we don't take the time to sit down with them, do the goal setting, do a screening, and actually find out that this rower is also a person. And we need to treat them like a person.
Yeah.
Because duty of care, especially with young kids, like if they get a back injury now, it's going to last them another 50, 60 years. Right. And that's not right for a Junior Worlds experience.
Yeah.
So I'm a firm believer. Screening, physio, blood work done, nutrition stuff too, with girls with the body image and things like that. Half them aren't eating enough calories, not eating at the correct times, all those things I think need to be.
But I probably, like with limited resources, I think maybe the first step is that conversation, that ongoing conversation and communication that the kid's doing okay. And, you know, the signs would probably be evident mentally there as well, if they're getting close to, you know, burning out or running a little bit too hard, you know.
Yeah, I think it's the conversation with the kids and then looping the parents in, right? So I send the kids home for breaks, and a girl was struggling this year, and I emailed her mom and I said, can you go get a full blood work done on her? The school doesn't like to do it, but I think she's low on ferritin and things like that. And I just,
keeping the parents in the loop.
Yeah.
Very important as well. Absolutely. I know you were coming to the last few 5 minutes, I suppose. So I'm just going to double check. We've gotten all the questions, and then we might go to some of these posts that you wanted to share with us. So, Jennifer just had a comment that loved the concept of team coaching to prevent against burnout. Simple but totally doable. And totally. And then so we just had one question in. So if anyone has a last minute question, they can throw it in on the questions and answers. But otherwise, Laryssa, was there anything there with that you in the slides that you wanted to touch on that we haven't, or will we go to the final close?
Just the role modeling one. So it was interesting when I went to Oz, because Riley was so young, and when the girls came into the AIS, it was normal for them to see Lyle and me doing this co-coaching, and how many of them are now coaching, which was pretty cool. And I put an email out to them and said, so I just think volunteering once a week, twice a week, whatever we are, the more the girls see it, the more that they're going to say, okay, I can actually do this. And it doesn't have to be the drudgery and I've said this to Michelle so many times, that coaching at the national team level, it shouldn't be like we're going to war. That it's women and children stay at home. It's just the men, and here we go into fight, and I got to be at the boat shed for 20 hours a day. It's like, are you there because you're unorganized? You're there 20 hours a day, or what? Like, really, it should be a training session, time off, a training session, time off, a training session, and then you've got your evenings. So I think it's more the perception that the coaches that have done well, this is how they've done it. But really, once the boat's rigged, the training program's written, the week is really implementing it, watching video, downloading your GPS, your Minimax, giving feedback, and you repeat. So I just feel, again, we can be different. Like when we were in Varese, I would go and take my kids to the park between the first and second session. And what were the guys doing? They were having coffees, but it wasn't all drudgery. It can be a really nice schedule.
Yeah.
So, and I think the more we work together too,
So you had actually, but you did a bit of a survey of what athletes that you coached or that were kind of around when you were coaching,
and
to see
so
how
many
any
of them
moved in?
So many of them. So this is one that's in Australia, and she's like, you are my role model in terms of balancing being a parent and coaching, and how she thought that explaining to the organizations that our work days may just look different, right? And we can juggle it all, we can be successful, but it's going to be different, and different is okay. And it's that education out there that to the athletes, to everyone, that you don't have to be the same. And I think that's what I love about these girls, that their norm was me, with the kids running around and Ian looking after the kids. So, and I had another guy at Worlds this year, and you wouldn't think how much it would affect the guys. Big guy in the four, Nick, came up to me and he goes, oh my gosh, why did you ever leave Australia? He goes, it was just awesome to have you, your energy. And he goes, you were different. You were different at the sheds, and you made the sheds a different place. And I just thought, wow. And another guy, So I think we're not going to hear it when you're in the crux of it, but you step back, and that's when it's going to be making the difference. And then the last quote I had, sorry, go ahead.
Before you go to your last quote, I'll just throw in one question that just came in. And so they have a lot of kids that don't, it brings us back probably to the previous conversation, but a lot of kids who don't continue rowing after junior level, like after 18. And have you any tips of how we can improve numbers transitioning to senior level? At the moment, it really is if they go to a rowing university, they keep rowing.
And I think that's goes back to the earlier one, that we make the winning, we make the regattas the important part of the sheds. It shouldn't be. Like, we trained in Slovenia one year, and I just loved it because they had the bar on top of the shed, as they do in Slovenia. I'd love to do it here in Canada. And the parents were up having a smoke and a drink, and the kids were out in singles, racing back and forth. And the kids were maybe 8 years old, right? Like these little flipping, getting back in. Like it was just, and then they switch, and then the parents go out. And it's like a fun thing to do. And that's what I think we don't mean to, but we almost make rowing not fun, because we make it that we're on this trajectory to race.
So hard. It's so hard, or else it's not worth it.
But especially for juniors, right? We do a cake race at Christmas, the relay races, anything we can do that's fun. Because right now, Miss B, I don't want to run. I don't want to do that. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm constantly trying to trick them into, okay, we're going to do wheelbarrow races where you have to hold someone's feet and race across the yard. But just, nuts.
No, you're dead right. I'm with you there. Bring back the fun.
And I think it's just, we gotta have streams in our clubs that those that choose to race, go. But you know what? Rowing is not just the racing part. It's actually this social part. And that's going to keep more girls in it, because girls love the social part. In one of the slides, you see, I start making pink clothes, right? Like our school colors are red, black, and white. I'm like, I'm not wearing that as a girl. So I got them pink vests, right? Okay, here we are. And the girls just want to join to get the vest, right? So
you got them in,
Anyway, to trick the girls in, you actually have to exercise now.
Brilliant.
So,
thank you. So, okay, let's finish with this banging quote. I really do love it. So, do you want to take it away, Laryssa?
Okay, so I just had the picture of me years ago and then me today, which is, it's still the same, right? You're balancing so many things. We're trying to do this all. We're going to be minorities forever, and we're going to get challenged. And just said to Michelle and Claire before that I found this quote and I just loved it. And I just put in the front of it: to stay in coaching, develop skin as tough as a rhino's hide. You cannot take anything personally. You cannot bear grudges. You must finish the day's work when the day's work is done. Don't be easily discouraged. take defeat over and over and over, pick yourself up and go on. And it just resonates to me. If I could do these things still better today, it would be awesome. And the big thing for me is when the work day is done, just leave it, so that we get that balance right too, that we work, we coach, we volunteer, we do all that stuff. But what's most important, and I think COVID-19 has taught us this too, it's this family unit, right? It's this home base that we've got now. And I think that's what we have to remember. These days when I'm probably in my head cursing, oh, I got to carry Avery up and down, or I've got them in the coach boat. How fortunate are we that we're actually able to do all this?
Yeah, no. That's spot on. Lovely way to finish. So just to say thank you so much, Laryssa. No doubt we'll have to have you back, and hopefully on Irish soil at some point in the future. You can't cover everything in an hour, and I'm sure there's plenty more questions to come, but thank you for the time you've given us today, and yeah, and stay safe over there.
Thank you. And you've got my email and stuff too, so I'm happy for anyone to email me and contact me.
Brilliant. No, thank you so much for that.
Instagram.
Brilliant.
Yeah, awesome.
So, and to everybody else, thanks for joining, and we will share this tomorrow through Rowing Ireland, and then you can share it with other members of your club and further afield. So thank you all. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you for taking the time.